Hello, welcome to the IPR game room, and today we're going to talk about Marching Order by Crumbling Keep. Now, I'm not a huge OSR guy, but when I find an OSR product that I like a lot, I like to have it here at Indie Press Revolution, and I like this a great deal. This is a very unique and interesting product. Now, Marching Order, according to its author, whose writer's voice is a very gruff and bemusing, sort of grognardy sort of voice. You'll know what I mean when you read it. Marching Order is inspired by two things, one of which I'm very familiar with, and one of which I had to go look up because I wasn't particularly familiar. So the first is the old Choose Your Own Adventure books from the 1970s and 80s, which I remember very well. I owned a bunch of them as a child. And also a video game called Darkest Dungeon, which I was not so familiar with, so I went into Wikipedia and read the entry for Darkest Dungeon, and now I understand the similarity between their two. So, Marching Order is a game. You can play it by yourself, or you can play it, with other people. I think there's probably a maximum of 4, where you assemble a group of rogues. They're not all rogues in a technical sort of Dungeons and Dragons-y sense. There's a bunch of different classes you can choose from. You hire a bunch of rogues to go down to a dungeon and acquire treasure in the form of coin. Which is the only point system that matters in Marching Order. If you're going to level up or improve your various employees, don't think of them so much as characters because much like in other OSR projects like Dungeon Crawl Classics by Goodman Games, believe me, your characters are very disposable, and will be disposed of in the game. You have a sort of pool of employee adventurers you send down to get you treasure. You are the employer, not the characters. Bring it back to you so you can then hire more and different or improve and re-equip the adventurers you have, and then send them back down. Now this is done through a playing of cards and through flipping through pages of a book. So you have 3 books in this box set. You have 2 books, rather, and a set of cards. So you have, and you have a little sort of like a useful reference sheet. So you have what's called the Delver's Guide. You can see right here on the back. The cover art, you might not be able to see it very well, is actually not identical. It shows an encounter, both books, between your characters and a bunch of goblins, it looks like. A lot of goblin write-up, a lot of goblin options in this. Like, most other monsters don't have 6 different options. I think goblins are a big deal in this. So your Rogue's Handbook basically tells you how to play the game, what you can spend money on. There's all sorts of wonderful old school tables rolling up, what happens when you carouse, what the end-game effects are, pretty humorously and slightly crassly, what the end-game effects are of carousing, what you can spend your money on, what you can buy, what kind of people you can recruit to be in your adventuring group, which is always 4. You always have 4 characters you send down, and there's a structural reason for this I'll get back to. That sort of thing. This book, the Delver's Handbook, is really just, it contains, I believe, 4 different dungeons. They don't call them dungeons, but let's call them dungeons. That you do a choose your own adventure thing. You leave this room, if you go this way, you have to go to this page. And then if you leave the room that way, you go to that page, and so on and so forth. So very much like a choose your own adventure path, except used to lay out a dungeon. Now, your combat in this game takes place in the form of cards that you line up in literally a marching order with the person closest to the. So if you have 4 player characters this way and you have 4 or more monsters this way, that is literally the line they're encountering one another in, with the barrier in the middle, with the head monster and the head adventurer facing one another, and then the entire way that combat flows, I won't go into great detail. Structures around monsters and adventurers moving forward or back, depending on their level of injury, depending on whether they want to run away. There's a lot of running away, and there's a lot of rules about running away and what happens if you run away. Whether you have someone in the back with ranged weapons or spells or whatnot or not. Now, your characters or your employees are all on cards here. Let me take one out and move it forward, as are the monsters. So you get all that in the basic box. There we go. And it all has a very old-timey kind of OSR feel to it. Though again, it's not Dungeons and Dragons. It's not first edition D&D or anything. It's yet another one of these more interesting projects looking to capture some of the feel of that without actually reverting to using, the old rules. So it has the feel of that, but I don't think you should think of it as some sort of variant of second edition advanced Dungeons and Dragons. It's not. It's a completely different game. So that is Marching Order. A very fun little box game. You can play with your friends. You can play with your friends, or you can play by yourself, which is what I think I'm going to do, having read through it. And it is available. You can pick it up here from Indie Press Revolution. And follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Subscribe to our newsletter below. And remember, gamers, when we really like an OSR product, we call it an indie game.